So welcome back to episode 3 of Under the Bar. I've been looking through a list of my friends and ex-teammates that I'm looking forward to talking to. But after this last week, I had a nice article come out in our local paper, a little bit about my upbringing and some of the struggles I went through with addiction. And, now that I'm coaching and dealing with a lot of parents, they only get to see kind of one side of me, and I thought it'd be interesting to have the one person I never thought I could get on this show. She really doesn't even like getting her picture taken, so I'm very, very grateful that she agreed to do this. But my mom is going to be on the show. Her name's Diane. So we're going to have her, give her side of everything that we've kind of been through, the good, the bad, the ugly, and we'll hear a little bit about her. So, Mom, thank you so much, one, for coming on, and two, just give us a little insight to, how you kind of got introduced to hockey and a little bit about your upbringing in Messina.
Well, hockey didn't come into my life until after I met your dad and went to my very first hockey game watching him. Before that, very uneventful childhood. There was 5 of us, busy, loving family, but not a lot of sports involved, just wrestling and basically gymnastics for me. We were very busy, but it was a good, quiet childhood in that small town.
Lots to do.
Not a lot to do. Yeah. Once I met your dad, I was a freshman in high school. He was a sophomore. And I learned to love the game. Didn't even know of it really before that, but I became a fan after a couple of years of kind of being forced into going, and I enjoy it. And I ended up being one of the biggest recreations that our family had. But I watched him in high school, watched him at St. Lawrence University, and I just learned to love the game. And obviously there was no decision whether you boys and we're going to play hockey or not.
Yeah, well, there was also, you talk about Dad a little, like he wasn't just playing hockey, there was football and baseball, like pretty much sports like up there, for most of the guys, it's seasonal. Try to be the best at each sport that you do. So at St. Lawrence, when Dad was there, obviously you didn't go to St. Lawrence, you were different, going to nursing school or in high school, kind of both. You still got up and got to go to a bunch of the games when you got a chance to, didn't you?
Pretty much every weekend. It was about 60 miles. There are colleges from each other. So I don't think I missed very many games. Just maybe in the times that we had our little spats and broke up, but typical teenage stuff. But no, I don't think I missed. Actually, my big highlight was bringing my mom to one of his games. She'd never been to hockey before, and she was a riot because she had no idea what was going on, but she was cheering. And one of my favorite memories of his whole college was when she was there, your father, imagine this, lost his temper, slashed a guy in the neck behind the net as they were going on. Because the guy got the puck away from him somehow. And my mother looked over at me and she goes, "Is that legal?"
If you don't get caught.
That's a moment. I lost my mom, very young. So that was one of those moments that I treasure. It was a stupid little thing, but I remember it like it was yesterday. So
it's funny you say that about, you mentioned, your family not really growing up on hockey, but when all was said and done, your father, Papa, my grandfather, ended up becoming, for me, I think, he was in a relationship at the time after your mom passed that he didn't get to go as much as I think he would like to, but by the end, he was at, every Clarkson game, before Clarkson even, I could remember, Northwood, always had the hat on, and, it's just, and then all the way down to like, to Mark, and then Ivan, our youngest cousin, until Ivan was done playing, he was at every game. It did have a big impact on our family. So even like
liked watching the girls, even liked watching Regan play. So, him, he was not real open to girls playing those sports.
He was old school. He was a little bit old school. Always Johnny Cash in the car. Yeah. But no, it's, it became, that's all growing up. Like I remember, like, it just seems like it was from beginning to end, just nonstop hockey in the house, in the backyard.
When you were really small, before you could play hockey, you were, 18 months, I think, when you put your first pair of skates on. I couldn't go, obviously, because your sister came along. And we had lady friends who came and picked you up and took you to the arena because they knew you loved to skate and they loved to watch you. And they would take you down during an open skate. There'd be nobody else on the ice, basically. There were those kind of people in our lives that were very fortunate and blessed that we had those kind of people who, you were just a character and they loved watching you, the joy you got out of it. And that's a great memory I have of when you were first starting out. I didn't always get to take you, but it was awesome to hear, the stories. And I remember taking you down there, and Megan, your sister, was bundled up in a thing, and I had her sitting on the old little ledge waiting in the warm room, and you were out on the ice doing your thing. Maybe 2 kids out there, maybe not, maybe some adults, but you were out there doing. Those are the things I treasure, those memories.
I had a pretty big imagination for a kid. Like I can remember being in like Nina and Pal's, my dad's parents' basement. It was just like an unfinished basement with a piano and a washer and dryer and like a little shower. But I put tape and just made like a little net. And I'd rollerblade, or even not, sometimes no rollerblades, but like I would play a game like against myself, go down on a breakaway, see if I could make this one move and hit this little spot. And if I hit it, I celebrated. And if I didn't, I'd throw my stick.
Thank your stick. Yeah.
But then, going to on ice, on the weekends, the Messina Arena was right across the street from our, your best friends and Dad's best friends, the La Rosa's bowling alley. So I thought it was pretty convenient. I can think back of just going from like the rink, Burger King, to the bowling alley, back to the rink. Like the weekends were just spent kind of there. That was like, for someone like me, like where we grew up, I didn't need anything else. That was perfect. Got to skate. And then, how old was I when we had our first outdoor rink? Was that the first, like, pretty much winter I was walking?
No, I'd say about 6. I think we started doing them. You were maybe 6 years old, maybe younger than that.
I thought it was younger because I can remember skating around like Mike and Michelle and being really, really little.
Yeah, we have movies of that, and you're right. I think you were maybe only about 3 or 4. Yeah. Seems like you were older, but you had the nets and you plunged through this foot of snow in there. They shoveled it off, and as fast as they shoveled it came down, but nothing stopped you from being out there when we could. When the weather allowed, we had the rinks in the winter, but if not, you went all over Messina. They had 6 different rinks you could go to at in the ball fields, basically, that they flooded. So that was something that most kids a lot of kids don't get to experience that.
It's funny, like on our street alone, we had a rink, and then three houses up to the right, the Aikens had a rink, and then if you go down four houses on the left, the Adams family, they had a full rink with like boards and everything, like the whole shebang. And then, like you said, the town had six rinks that they kept up with the Zamboni. And it was just like, even if you didn't play, you played. Like you'd go as a, all the kids that didn't play organized hockey would always still be down there on the weekends. Yeah, it was pretty neat.
I went to those places as a child, right up down the street from where I grew up. They flooded the ball field, and we figure skated. We didn't. There was only certain times that they let them play hockey. Not that they didn't try to do it other times, but we would figure skate. Just skate around for hours until we couldn't feel our toes and walk up the road. That's how many years. That's when Messina hockey was huge. Skating outdoor.
Yeah, it revolved around it. I mean, it seemed like, in that town, if you were doing good at hockey, you were getting, some attention. It ended up for me not being the greatest thing. I mean, I got pretty full of myself pretty quick. And it wasn't a good thing. I mean, confidence and cockiness are two different things. And, I was going to ask, like, we spent so much time and obviously you guys spent so much money we had tons of opportunity. Like, I mean, I think I was 10 years old when I started going over and playing summer hockey over in Cornwall with Seaway Valley. How was that had to be, I mean, because it was usually just me and Dad, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you and Megan and Mark were usually at home taking care of everything.
Well, it was hard because they didn't always have that interest to be sitting in a rink. So I had to balance time, me to be there and me to be able to go, first of all, but then them being able to, sometimes you were there all day playing tournaments. And it's hard with Megan was 3 years older than you. And then when Mark came along, another 7 years, basically different. So everybody's needs were different throughout the different stages. And yes, financially it was a burden, but I won't say, we weren't floating in money, but we lived an average lifestyle for, didn't go without for sure, but didn't have extra. Whoa. And that was our recreation. That was the family recreation also. We made the best of it. You do, as the teens were like that then, we were all family basically. So you kind of shared sometimes the kids would go with another family because the other ones couldn't be there. I mean, it was a great camaraderie all the way from the time when your father coached and we traveled with those teams and you were little, we traveled. But the camaraderie there, that was your recreation for the winter, basically. We wouldn't have done anything else anyway, probably. So we traveled and we got to see different parts of Canada and United States, but mostly Canada. And you stayed in hotels and the kids got the pool. It was a vacation for you all, that was what we knew. So would we do it any different? We wouldn't do it any different, I don't think, doing it over again, except to sit back and enjoy it more and not stress about all the little things, But.
It was funny. I mean, Megan, wanted to always play hockey and Dad didn't want her to. And she ended up I made her the goalie for a little while until Mark came along and ended up being the goalie. But, we didn't, the three of us, with the age difference. And I just was always on the go with my friends. You know what I mean? Looking back, not every kid realizes they're going to be best friends with their brother and sister when they're older. But that was the one thing we did together. Like Megan would play, Mark was, you know what I mean? And it's always been that big driving force in my life. Well, I was going to see we always had kids at the house. it was a small town. Like, it was kind of easy to get around on rollerblades or bike and kind of stay out of trouble. Like, was there an age that you started to notice, like, I was starting to get in a little bit of trouble or mischievous, or?
Hindsight, probably more so, but no. No. I can honestly say and I thought I was pretty wise to what goes on, but you know, things I did when I was 14, 15, 16, I expect all that. You don't encourage it, obviously, but you kind of go, everyone's going to sip on beer, you know, go to a party. We used to go to them too, sneak out the house. But honestly, you know, it almost makes me, sometimes I reflect on, you know, could I have done something different? What should I have noticed more? I thought you were just like every other kid at that age, which you probably were up to a point where, you know, after the games, you go out, you know, sometimes you sneak people in, sneak out, but I didn't notice anything, you know, to that point where I was really worried until probably when you went away to Northwood. And I always wondered, because you do that, mothers do that, whether you're in college or whether you know, over at a friend's house, what are they really doing, you know? But no, I can honestly say I was dumb to a lot of things.
Well, the thing about, you know, having, you know, alcoholism or addiction or anything is, like, nobody ever truly, like, straight out changes or has any bad intentions, or, you know what I mean? It just is, it's kind of something that I, looking back on it, it just gradually kind of built up. Like, at first it was just fun and it was harmless, but I could also see, like, holy shit, like I'm drinking a lot. You know, for me, like at 14, at the, you know, after we won the states, I think I probably drank like 20 beers, you know, and it was crazy. It was, but like, look in the surroundings at the time, it didn't seem anything out of the norm. You know what I mean? But, you know, it just kept kind of like, it was fun and innocent. And then at one point, you know, it got to a point like, when you're, you know, 18, 19, 20 and in college, certain things go on, like it's crazy drinking times. But for me, it got to the point, like I was going through like just some stuff, like I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. You know what I mean? And you guys weren't there. It wasn't, that was, you know, right around the time too, I think, you know, when you guys were going through your separation. And when I was up at school, it was like, no kid, like I talk to parents now, they gradually are always asking me, will you talk to my kid? They won't listen to me. You know what I mean? Like I had everything figured out. There's nothing you know, you or dad, I could have done probably any different. Like everything you guys did was what any child would ask for. Then really the signs started coming later when it got a little more serious, but that's, I guess, kind of now why, you know, I'm trying to do this stuff is at 19 when, you know, I was at school and feeling all these pressures, like who can you go to and talk to about it? Like, I don't know, like I felt like there was times like I wanted to, but it was, then you feel like I don't want you to have to worry about me all the time. You know what I mean? Like as long as you think I'm okay, I feel like I'm okay.
Well, I think it was at that point where I kind of knew things were out of hand. But before that, I think I just thought, you know, you were having 5 beers, like with everyone, 3 beers, 5 beers, 6 beers, whatever the norm is for that age group. Now, like I say, you saying that shocked me in high school after a game to be able to, because you functioned very well most of the time the next day. So those clues aren't there. it's tricky to know. But as a mom, I always knew later days from, I guess, more that Linda Clarkson to, your PD Pride, just the phone calls. Either I wouldn't get them, first of all, and then I knew things are bad.
You were the only one that could tell just by talking to me if I was off, and I would find a reason not to talk to you until I felt right again. You know what I mean? If I didn't feel like I could put on a good face, I didn't want to worry you, so I would just, I'm not feeling that great, or come up with something that you would be okay for a couple days until I started kind of feeling normal again.
But I think you were more punishing yourself in a way, because you're very hard on yourself, even though, I think you've always had an expectation. Like you say, I was disappointed in myself and tired of disappointing people. I don't know if there was a lot of time where you disappointed anybody but yourself, because I think you knew.
There was really high expectations for me going into school, and honestly, I did drop the ball my freshman year. I went in out of shape, I got back in shape, and as soon as I had some success, I just went right back to, I wanted to be, it was more important for me to be better off ice friends than it was to be. And then I was still getting pissed that I wasn't getting the results. You know what I mean? It was and you look back and you could just be give yourself a slap, duh, stop doing this and this.
Easy, right? Easy when you look back, but that's life.
But when you don't know, you don't know you have a problem, people can tell you, you don't feel it up here. It's not something like I said, I agree with you, but I'm going to do this anyway. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't know how to, well, now I guess I would, but approach someone and just be what's going on? But no one really did with that, because I put on a pretty good face and tried my best to at least, just play it off I'll do better next year, Well,
I think when it comes along with pressure from our small town with expectations, yes, people kind of wait for you to fall,
Yeah.
You've been that kid, one of those kids. And along with that comes the pressure. I never wanted to make you feel that way, but I felt it either from other people who I talked to, or people would tell me, people say, you were doing things you shouldn't be doing. I don't know, they're almost looking for things. Sadly, that's the way life is. But
well, the thing was,
you had a lot of people that rooted you on too. You had a whole lot of people who supported and rooted and wanted the best for you, but there's always that. So when you would get down on yourself or did not do what you thought was what was expected, I think the result was you punished yourself basically by continuing to do, well, I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah, it's true. And as it kind of moved on and I, got out of college, at least there I was 30 minutes away. It wasn't a long period of time that we wouldn't see each other. You know what I mean? I was home a decent amount. I always came home for lasagna and laundry for sure. But the part when I went into my first year pro, I was I had taken that year off of school. I was up at Northwood. Remember when I was teaching and working the gym and kind of coaching. And then that year I went into PD. I was actually in a pretty good spot, not crazy anything. And I can remember, when I got down there, I was nervous because I didn't play hockey for a year and I had to try out for a team. So I ended up making it, and, the guy offered me the league minimum. I was like, hell yeah, I'll play. I just want to play again, I was, a ways away from home, and just like anywhere else, it started off really well. And I worked my butt off. I shut my mouth. I didn't do much. And gradually as kind of success started coming, in that league, it was so easy to fall into some habits. And I feel like that's when it kind of got at its worst for me, when I was that far away from home. And, there were times where, when I first started getting introduced to some other stuff besides alcohol, that I never thought I would be a part of. That's where, it changed. That's where it changed everything. So like I got into it, and it kind of took over a lot of different things. And what it does is, like, you feel like shit a lot, like depressed a lot. And I would go like weeks, and I can remember you guys like being real concerned, and I just would, kind of push you away. Like I didn't want to, I knew what I wanted to do, and I knew it wasn't what was right. You know what I mean? So like, I don't know, that had to be kind of one of the tougher times.
Definitely. I think, in order to change, you had to go through that. And you did. You went through the rehab. I saw my son for the first time in years, and I didn't realize just how much you'd gone through until I saw you perfectly sober and straight. And I walked, it was like a feeling of such relief. But I think it took that, you had to be at your lowest point to come back. And sometimes that can happen 2, 3 times, 4 times. Some people always, fall back into it, but you have to learn from all that, and hopefully eventually it sinks in. I do remember words you just said that you said to me. I'm trying to think how you worded it to me. You don't have to worry about me when things are seeming bad. It's when things are going really good. And I was taken back by that, but I remember you saying that to me, and then it made sense, because I can do this, and I can just have a drink, start out this way, or, but those things stick in my mind, good thoughts.
Yeah. Well, that time I did it the right way. Like I had met, Craig was a big part of my life, and he had introduced me to a friend, Alan, and he had been through rehab, and I just thought the most of him. And I was like, if he went there, I want to be like him. And the one thing it kind of taught me there, is one, like the biggest thing I live by, I try to, when things are, is like controlling what you can. When we were going through like playing pro and stuff, like I was so like I still wanted to play, but I was scared. Like I think I already thought it was over. Like I couldn't go back to the AHL, and after I got clean that year, and I was living like just really clean living, and it was like a good probably. I mean, it was just under a year, because I know like I was going to AA, and I was going to get my chip, and I say it now, like it started out really, really slow. You know what I mean? Like a few beers here, and then gradually, like next thing you know, like a year and a half later, I did that year that I was sober get called up, and I was shitting. You remember when I called you? I was like, I think I was down in Florida. I was like, you're not going to believe this. I got called up to Portland. I said, well, all I have is my tracksuit, and a pair of shorts and a golf shirt. I was like, any chance you want to come to my first AHL game, and can you bring me a suit and a jacket, please? It's going to be.
No, I don't want to go there. We were all excited. We got in the car, and that was.
Yeah, that was fun. It was, it was looking back a couple of years like that. together probably could have been like a really good thing. You know what I mean? But again, it fell back into I was, working up there and in Charleston at that time, and I started my own business, and I started like making pretty good money, and I got some really good contracts, and it was because I was showing up on time, and I was finishing jobs on time, and everything, the way that a business is supposed to roll. And, I think back and gradually like started to come into some bad habits again, but I had it figured out. Like I wouldn't spend a ton of money. I would just get a bunch, and I could give some to my friends and break even. So it wasn't bad at this time. You know what I mean? And then it got, when I was like done playing, that was probably one of the darker spots. And I had so much like hatred, and I was pissed at myself for like throwing it away, because I had seen some kids like go from coast to A to NHL and do well, and I'm like, that was I think during that time, like, I mean, I didn't talk to you much, or Megan much, or Mark much, really at all. I had cut out pretty much most of my family at that point for a while.
Yeah, it was, we all could see everything, at that point, there was no doubt in anybody's mind, and we just prayed that you would come around again, that you'd realize how bad things were.
Times, 5 or 6 different stages in my life. It was bad, like just gradually, and you can make some money and fool people and seem okay on the outside, but like inside, it's just like ripping me apart, and to not, thinking back, like how close we are now, like we try to talk almost every day. I think I bug you sometimes in the morning when I'm taking my dog for a walk, but like looking back, like it was such a while, and I just, it breaks my heart to kind of think of like what I put you guys through, during that time.
Well, you kind of threw me for a loop the other day when you asked me, said something about feeling maybe partly responsible for our divorce. And that never even crossed my mind through anything, any time of my life. None of you children were involved with any of that decision. Just things didn't work. It got worse, and it was the best decision for everybody, But I never, just the opposite. I always thought there's something I missed, because all that stuff I was going through and trying to hold the house together and the other 2 kids together. And you were out, you'd been out on your own for a couple of years by then. So I kind of felt like maybe I threw you to the side, and you were,
I mean, on paper, I was like doing pretty well. I mean, was and wasn't, you know what I mean? Like when you live up there, it's like I was doing what everybody else was doing, but not everybody else had a scholarship to play hockey for a living, you know what I mean? And a chance to actually go to do some good things. But, the discipline then was just, I had enough talent to get by, but I just didn't realize how much more could have been done. You know what I mean? And then it's still been like, and even I know some people read that article, and so Cap had said like it's been 2 full years I've been completely sober. That's like, I don't want people to get mad or something. That's a little bit of a misquote. Like the last 2 years I've been living through way different eyes, and the problems I've had in the past with like alcoholism and everything, like one, I don't go near any of that stuff anymore. I mean, I have had beer here and there, like, but from drinking so much when I was younger, like now my stomach's such a mess. If I even like the thought of drinking 2 or 3 beers makes me probably want to go to the bathroom. Like it's almost a blessing, because I mean, you can think and you can tell better than anyone, but like since I got back into the game, it changed kind of my mentality. Like like even when I was coaching in South Carolina, you know, we had really cool teams. I know you loved going to those games too. And like what do you like? I've got a little bit of Bill Reid in me behind the bench, and I like it, but I'm yelling consistently at these kids, and I always said I wouldn't, but it's just such a natural reaction, you know.
You got that from somebody else, not me.
But when I was there, you know, I was committed to helping the kids and stuff, but I was still like at that point in my life, like I was married and I had, for some reason at that point, developed like an addiction to painkillers, and nobody really knew for a while. And then it looked really obvious, but it wasn't really until I kind of got back into like the game and I came up here, and God bless Lori and you guys for being patient. 'Cause like, after you're like 38 years old and this is like the sixth time around, sometimes just like it's getting old, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you know, it's been such a different ride these last 2 years. Like I don't know, I've got so much more invested in these kids and like what I want to do for them and having kind of a platform to help, that, you know, it's helping me be a better person too. I think, you know, any
all of your family, us, the immediate family and outside family, realize you're doing exactly what you should be doing. At this point in your life, or whenever it was that it's meant to be right now. It happened and it's meant to be. You made it happen. You worked hard. You get an opportunity and then you grow on it. You've expanded everything, you know, came up to coach, and now you've got your own little Reader hockey going, with lots of hopefully good things to come with it. But we are all probably more proud than you ever will know because of where you came from, what you've been through, where you came from to get to this point. And all I can think is when you talk to your kids, all those good little stepping stones, you mentioned the AHL, your scholarships, pretty much every time good things happen, you made the Stingray team, was after you had your breakthroughs, sobered up, got yourself in shape, you felt better physically, obviously, but mentally more so. That's more, to me, more the helping, you know, part of it is getting yourself mentally set, and then the physical comes. And I think looking back at all the patterns, when those good things happen to you is when you were mentally in a good place. So if it's nothing else, you teach these children, which I know you have so much to offer them, so much knowledge and the love of the game, the passion. If you can just tell them all your opportunities really came, you had a lot of opportunities in your life, and not all were capitalized on, but what you've had for opportunities, and yes, you made some bad decisions along the way, but the opportunities you had came along because you worked hard for them, and you had the natural ability, and then you worked hard on top of that. But the most important times and the best times in your life, when you've been clean and sober and know what you want, which it's a struggle for everybody in life. I'm 65. I'm still wondering what I'm going to do. So
I think, I mean, if I'm 65 and I can go out on my pontoon boat and fish every morning, then I've got my life figured out. You got a golf cart and a pontoon boat and a lake, like, I'll fast forward. No, I'm loving what I'm doing, but I would definitely like my little weekends out there as well. If you can, like, you know, I'm working with these kids and I see tons of different parenting, you know, at all different age groups, you know, looking back, like, you know, I think Dad was a little bit, you know, he was hard. There was definitely, he was too hard. I've told him that. But like now I'm not mad at him for it. Then it made it hard, you know, to please. You know, it's almost like sometimes I see some of my players looking up into the stands, like in between plays, to see if their dad's like giving them the approval. You know, is that like, was it tough to see that, or, you know?
I think we second guessed all along the way. I think your father's mindset was, you know, I said, why do you have him? He's 4 years old, 5 years old. You know, why are you starting him so young? He's not, you know, and then maybe when you're 7 or 8 and you're, you know, how everyone peaks at different times, you and a couple other kids peaked. And then they wanted to move you up with older kids in the group. So of course you had all that scuttle. So there's always those decisions along the way, just like anything in life, you're going to second guess the decision you make. We could only do what we knew best and what was allowed. When you went over to Canada to play in the summers, you know, you played ball usually, but you gave up your things. I think all those things as a parent, just like any other decision, whether it's school or something with other recreation, force your children is not a good thing. When you have a passion, let that child go with it as far as they want to and can. Not unrealistically, but when you got a love for something, as like you with hockey, there was no stopping you. There was all kinds of people saying, we forced you, your dad, you know, pushed you. No, you didn't have to be pushed. I told you the story 100 times. We would drive to the rink for practice, and I knew you were burning up fever, and you'd ask me to pull over. You threw up twice, and I was turning around to go home. No. I think you were 6 or 7. I can't miss my practice. I won't be able to play in the game this weekend. I guess you were older than that, probably 8. But anyway, I think the most important thing is make the best. Every child is different. Every situation is different. We question whether to send you to prep school. You know, does he stay out and be a hero at high school or struggle again? But like your father had a point, how you got better was playing against better players.
It was. And in that one year,
pressure.
Yeah, so, my sophomore year, I remember when I went over and played in Charland, the junior B, that was intimidating. That was like 21-year-olds, and I was 14, maybe just turned 15. But I wanted to. Do you think, like, when I signed at school, like at that time, you know, I remember just letters and letters coming in every day. It was like 3 scholarship offers. Like, I was recruited pretty young at Clarkson, but like, we didn't really, like, I kind of just decided to go there. We didn't have a ton of real like conversation about going on visits or anything.
No, I don't even think you ever went on a visit.
I didn't, just Clarkson.
Well, the decision was St. Lawrence University,
yeah,
obviously.
That's where I wanted to go.
But at the time, they weren't offering any scholarships. There was a bunch of stuff going on, you know, politically within the school. So, you know, full ride to Clarkson versus nothing. We would have had to pay for your $120,000 for your education at St. Lawrence University. Obviously, your dad kind of struggled with it at first because it's St. Lawrence versus Clarkson.
Of course.
But it didn't take them long to figure out that no, that was the best move on the financial. They had a great program. So no, I don't think there was ever any other. There were offers, but there was never really any visits. We didn't sit down other than with Mark.
You know, at that time, like pretty much all the guys that made the 16 and 17 team, that was an automatic, like, school's going to take a chance. You know what I mean? And it was over. Remember, I got the accepted to Harvard. Do you remember the day that letter came in? I was just like, come on, like, how? You know, how? Hockey. But it was funny. I had a guy call me from Cena after he read the article and said, we heard your dad was, a little tough on you. He has a son that's good, like he's above average in town, and he's kind of wondering, like, he sees there's times where he's not working hard and wants to know, like, how to approach it. You know what I mean? And I was like, well, I usually kind of tell my parents, especially ones that don't know hockey, and if you do, it's a little different, but like, you can see when they're working hard and when they're having fun. And if they're not doing it, there's a way to kind of go about talking to kids now. Like, don't you think if you worked a little harder in that play, you might have gotten the puck instead of just hammering down? Like, it's hard on kids. I do still instinctually, and then like 30 seconds later, I'll pull them aside and be like, listen, where I'm, you know what I mean? Like, try to cool it down. But I guess, yeah, it is as a parent. 'Cause like, you never yelled. I don't think I ever heard you yell at a ref or anything. Did you?
Maybe a couple times.
Yeah, when there's a bad call. But you remember back in the day, like, there was, probably 80% of our parents were not just yelling at their kids, but at every kid on the ice,
I never liked that. I never liked that at all. But yes, it happened all the time. It still does. I think the whole parent not in the rink thing might be interesting for 5 or 6 games, just to see the difference in how kids react without, that pressure of the parent coming down, but some kids don't even hear it. I used to ask you, you heard it, and you'd go, no, I didn't hear it. You didn't want to deal with it.
Well, it's like, I tell my kids now, like, everyone has a different kind of path where when you're going to make it, when you're going to peak, like, you saw so much hockey and so many kids, like, some years they're really good, some years really bad, some years good. Like, it's hard. Like, I'm trying to ask, I guess, to give some advice to some of the younger parents, maybe about some patience in the process, and, how to kind of be supportive without, being overbearing.
Yeah. Me, I always just point out the good stuff. And when you did your circles, like I called them, I didn't say you were doing circles all game, Matt. That's when you were.
It's one of my pet peeves now.
Do you?
It's my pet peeve with my players when they circle. Like, it was one of my biggest problems, but I got it in college like that. It stopped. I wish I would have learned it before then. You know what I mean? But I'm glad it didn't come from you, because you were the only one I knew that.
No, I never said anything.
When I got off the rink.
Usually when I said that, you would have said, I just didn't have it tonight. It wasn't there. And I'd go, yeah, you were doing your circles. I don't even know if you ever picked up on it, but most of the time that was.
I got mad at you if I picked up on it.
But I would be the parent that was saying, great job, 2 goals, 2 assists, so what, you lost by 1 goal, and your dad would be like, well, you didn't get the puck out of the corner, or you let that guy knock you off the puck, and then we'd get in a spat over it. But that's when you were, pretty young. I'd be like, why do you tell them all the negative? I think you can't be in an unrealistic world with your kids and just say, oh, it's all good, because sometimes it's not all good. They just don't have it that day, and you say, it just wasn't there today.
Yeah.
Maybe you didn't sleep. Maybe you didn't do that, But I'm always the type who push the positive and not be unrealistic, You can only do so much out there as long as you're trying hard and you're having fun. I know you all hate to lose, but I don't look at that picture. That's a different whole different mindset than you have and your dad and a lot of people. They want to win, but you can only contribute.
Looking back, what do you think, like, I guess as for the players, like, was the toughest part, like, that, we've kind of been through?
Through hockey or through life?
Life in general.
Well, getting the call that night and going out there and trying to help you up, your brother and I, walking you up the hill. I don't know how we did it. Had to been something that I would never want to go through and never want to go through. No parent needs to. But I will say that there was a awakening in me, I guess, that night. In the weeks to follow.
We had a good little bond.
Don't never say never, and just be aware of all the little now you can't know everything, but it's hard. It was very hard.
It's hard even thinking about it now, and I can remember, at the time, it made such perfect sense. Like, it was just such an easy decision. And I can remember, I think it was when I was getting out of rehab and you have to talk, and you and Mark, Megan, I believe, came up, and it was, I barely was in and out of stuff, and could just think of it's such a selfish move, even though it wasn't that easy for me to just not do it. But it was you think about all the people around you, and you think about just the relationships now, with Mark and Megan and you, it's not, I wouldn't wish it upon anybody. I hope at least some players or parents get this and realize maybe this sounds a little bit familiar. You know what I mean? If it can save, someone the heartache of having to, go through that, then everything that we're doing makes complete sense now. You know what I mean? Yeah,
I think it's in the moment, nobody thinks of that whole big picture like you do after or now when you look back. Nobody looks at the big picture when you're put in that position and you feel like your biggest thing was, I feel like I've let everyone down. I'm tired of it. That's pretty much what you said.
Yeah.
And at that moment, that's all you're thinking about. And yeah, it is selfish, but it's that's that's the way it is when you're in that. First of all, there's depression, and then there's depression with the alcohol on top of it, the binge drinking on top of already feeling crap. So your mind isn't clear, your mind isn't right. And that's a good thing is, don't ever put yourself in that position again where you are at that vulnerable state to do something like that. Kids can catch, realize things before it gets to that point.
And I'll say to any kids too, if don't feel like your mom and, wouldn't be the one to talk to, any time now, even I'm sick, I go to my mom. I'm still a mama's boy. But after everything that I put her through, each time when it was time to get better, that's where I went. I went right to mom's house. I was there, I think, a month, one time in Charleston, at Churchill. It's just, I feel like kids are scared of being honest with their parents, just of, they're going to disappoint them. But if you don't, it's just going to make it worse. It's going to get, your relationship will get worse with your parents. And, it's the right step to make. You know what I mean?
It'll disappoint your parents more if you can't or won't come to them, no matter how bad it gets. if the parent wants you to be able to feel, not that they're going to agree with you or be happy about things, but it's more hurtful to a parent when you think they could have came and talked to me. Why didn't they talk to me? Why, parent second guesses forever, pretty much. But don't be afraid to, what's the worst that can happen? It can't get any worse. Talk to your parents. Be surprised where they come through when something like that. It's more disappointing to a parent if you can't talk to them. That's all I can say for me personally. If you can't talk to me about something, I might not always agree, that. I'm going to tell you that, but I'd be more hurt if you can't at least tell me. Ask me something,
Absolutely. Well, you've always been our moral compass, and I think that between the three of us, we needed a good one. So what, like looking back, there's been some really good stuff too. What do you think, like some of the highlights, some of your favorite hockey life moments along the way?
Like I said, my first ever really where I felt good was my mom watching your dad play, and that experiencing it. She just loved life. And watching you and your brother and Megan, if she could have, I wish now looking back we had allowed her, but girls hockey.
She would have been so badass. Oh my God.
She probably would have been the littlest on the team, but probably the feistiest on the team. But I think watching you three, as far as you're concerned, just watching you at such a young age have that passion for something. Of course, you loved outdoors. You still are that way. You'd rather be outdoors than inside. The zest for life, talking to people, you would be watching your kids grow up. Is just, all three of you are so different.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Always, but there is so many things that I remember through all three of your lives that just, they amaze me. And I mean, you all are the highlight of my life. That's my best, I'd say my best accomplishment, or my is having three beautiful children, and I wouldn't give that up for all the headache and gray hair in the world. But yeah, I think, as far as hockey, watching your progress so young, right up everything, right from the
very fast, didn't it?
Oh Lord. And people tell you that. I wish I'd have sat and relaxed and enjoyed it more than just you're always worried about everything else. But hockey before you with your dad, and he coached all those years. You traveled with us.
Oh yeah. Some of my favorite memories.
We had great memories with that. That whole crew was just crazy but fun. They made it fun. So we did the same when you were going through it, and I say my biggest regret is that it ended earlier. Once you get to high school, it kind of all changes and shifts anyway, because you're not doing the same kind of traveling as a family.
Yeah.
But I have no regrets about spending money, traveling. It was, like I say, it was probably we just sat home and froze and sat in the living room watching TV because not much to do in the winter. Hockey was an outlet.
The one thing that hockey does do, and I'm big believer in a lot of the things of the game, but like the lifelong friendships, not only with like me and players, but you and parents, like nothing's changed. The parents still get absolutely wasted on the weekends and barely crawl into rinks. But even now, rinks have it where like you can sit in the bar and watch your kids on TV. You guys might have liked that a little bit, especially how cold the rinks were where we were. But yeah, no, the times have kind of changed quite a bit, but the whole dynamic of the camaraderie, like you mentioned, it's still there, and it really, like, when you're in it and you're doing the right things, like, if I was, 15 years old and I, told myself, my future self at 42, like I was going to be coaching 14-year-olds and doing this, I don't know if I would have been like, great job, buddy. You know what I mean? Like, you knocked it out of the park. Like, I thought I'd be retired NHL, like yachts, treating my family, buying them houses. But it is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And like, that's what I'll say to like players, like future players, like, be really patient, enjoy it. Like my mom said, it goes by faster than you can imagine. And really, like, what you're gonna, when all's said and done and the game's over, it's gonna be about like, how good of a teammate were you? Like, what types of friendships did you make? Like, that's what people remember. They don't remember, like, you didn't mention a goal, you didn't mention a championship, you didn't mention a trophy, you mentioned like the friendship. Yep, and that's why we're in it. You know what I mean? There was a question someone from Messina had, who's your favorite child? But I'm not going to embarrass Megan and Mark, so I'm not going to ask you. It's an easy answer.
Well, I have a favorite oldest child, a favorite middle child, and a favorite baby.
You always know how to answer the questions right. That's for sure. Well, Mom, thank you. I think I hope this gets out to as many people that it can, and I'm so thankful just for the opportunities, one, but you've always just been there for me, and it means more. I love you.
I'm still here.
Well, we will. We're trying our best. We've got. My brother has some three children. So my mom's now got what, five
boys. Yep.
Yeah, we're in the process. They're all young. One of them's a little bit older. He might be past playing hockey, but we're gonna maybe make a small attempt at the other three. Don't you think?
I think that's a great idea.
I think
I go and watch my nieces or in-laws through my husband, his niece's children, just for something to watch hockey. I love it. They're young, 5 years old, and I love going to watch them. Brings back a lot of memories.
You still go to Stingray games every once in a while too, just when family's in town and stuff?
Rarely, but in the last few years, not much. But before that, every time somebody come, we go watch. It's not the same.
No, it's not. I know. I miss it. I miss it a lot. I love coaching. It's just a whole different dynamic. It'd be nice to like glorify the playing days, but fact of the matter is they're done, and I have no desire to be competitive.
I enjoyed coming to watch your kids play last year when I came down. I got to do that more often. That's all.
Hopefully we can get stuff back to normal and get this season going. I'm ready to get back on the ice. It's just not the same. My mom, she's still definitely a hockey mom. When I was in Charleston, I do Zoom videos online, and she was my camera person there for about 2 weeks, wasn't it?
I'm unemployed right now. If you want to come back.
I will. It was 95 here today. It felt like I was in Charleston. We had the misters.
It was 90 here today. So you were a little bit hotter than we were.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we can get you up here this season. I'll have you come in the locker room and give the boys a little pregame speech.
Yeah, they'll listen to me just like you did.
You might have a better chance now than you did then.
What does she know about hockey? They're probably,
Yeah, I think maybe after they watch this, they'll know. Who is your favorite player, like NHL all time? Do you have one?
Me?
Yeah.
In the NHL?
Yeah, whoever's,
What was his name in Tampa? St. Louis?
St. Louis. I played against.
Why? He was so short. I kind of liked watching him. His style reminded me a little bit of you, the way he skated. like if I saw him skating, like I can pick you out on the ice. If there was 50 people with no, just watch your feet, I think I could pick you out. Although I've been around the pool.
Did you remember St. Louis was at Vermont? My freshman year at Clarkson, he was at Vermont.
Yeah, see, I don't remember a lot from there, but I watched him on, on TV. I think I went to one NHL game down there. But anyway, I enjoyed, and Papa, your grandfather, used to talk about him a lot because he'd go to the games down in Florida. And he's a little guy, but he scoots around.
That's why Papa, like, a quick story, like, Papa was shorter, and we took him out to play golf at the Ocean Course with Big Ron. Big Ron's 7 foot tall. And he looked at me, my grandpa, and he goes, "How am I supposed to play golf with him?" And I was like, "It's not football, you know what I mean? He's not going to tackle you. Like, let's go play golf." That's why he liked St. Louis, because he was so little and he could still get things done.
He definitely had short man syndrome, and it came out in later years for sure, but he was something else, and he enjoyed watching you guys, anything. He enjoyed watching any sports when you were playing, which he was never a big, that I knew of, sport person when I grew up. But he was
more on cars, He worked at GM, he built cars, he, did a lot of woodworking and stuff, but he definitely by like the end, like he was coming down to Florence a bunch, like, when he lived in Florida, I would see him a lot. And yeah, no, he knew the game by the end, like he actually knew what was going on. He wasn't just there cheering.
Yeah,
cool.
He sure enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap this up, Mom. I know, like, I figured now I know you'll do anything for me, because this is probably not your most favorite thing in the world to do. But I'm sure you'll get a lot of good stuff out of this, and I can't thank you enough. I love you. Thank you so much.
Love you too, honey. Proud of you.